to record. I'm beginning to record our lecture, so I am sharing the screen. I am sharing the screen and we are beginning. Okay, so dear students, today we are beginning to discuss the second step of management. During our previous lectures, we discussed ancient practice of management, like prehistorical management, let it be like this. Last time we spoke about scientific management, and today we are speaking about the second important step, the second important milestone within management science. Just to make it a little bit more obvious, this is the picture which was shown during our previous lecture. So last time we spoke about this school of management, and today we are speaking about administrative school of management. I'd like to stress one more time that under the word school we don't mean like some house with schoolboys and schoolgirls. No, it is we are using this word in the meaning of like group of some scientists who had or who have, if speaking about contemporary situation, the same ideas regarding some questions. And then in this very situation, we will speak about ideas connected with management. In this school of management, we will speak about only one scientist, but his contribution into management science was really great. So that's why I decided to to choose only one person within this school of management. First of all, I'd like to but I'd like to briefly remind you previous school of management. I'm sorry. Here is the slide. So if speaking about scientific management, you remember that the main idea of Frederick Winslow Taylor, Gilbreth's the husband and the wife, Frank and Lily, their ideas were to increase efficiency of every labor. That's why sometimes people call scientific management as shop management. I told you that in this meaning we are using shop in the meaning of some part of industrial enterprise. Українською мовою це цех. Я хочу наголосити, що англійською мовою слово shop значить не тільки магазин, це основне значення, але й також і цех на промисловому підприємстві. So, scientific management, within scientific management, these scientists tried to increase efficiency of activities of non-managerial staff, or how it is written here, below the managerial level. And Henri Fayol, the founder of Administrative Management School, he tried to think about management as a science, not only to manage, to organize subordinates or non-managerial staff, but also he I would say began thinking and began working at the problem how to organize managerial activities. So, in other words, how to manage in more effective way. So not only to and I'd like you to feel this difference because it's crucial. Taylor and Gilbreth, they didn't think how to increase efficiency of managerial stuff. They thought only about non-managerial stuff. And nowadays, you have to understand that you as a future manager, you have not only to think about your subordinates, but you also will have to think, for example, how to create a strategy for your company or for your department in the most effective way. So it is managerial task, and this task is connected only with managers. So actually, you could say yes. Sometimes non-managerial staff could be involved because non-managerial staff, one of the main stakeholder. Yes, I agree with you, but generally the task of strategy creating is a managerial task. So that's why, for example, the main difference between these two schools or two steps of management. In scientific management, they thought only about non-managerial stuff, and in an administrative school, people, and this is the first man who began to think about managerial stuff. Within the school, people try to increase efficiency of managerial activities. And the first man who began working at this problem was Henri Fayol. Please pay attention that it is written with the H in the beginning, but he was French. That's why we have to pronounce it not as Henry, but as Henri. Henri Fayol. Henri Fayol. He was a French. So the main contribution of this person was that he defined related functions of management, and actually we will, at the end of today's lecture, we will compare the modern view of management and the view at management of Henri Fayol, but you will see that it was not the same, but very close to the modern view at management as a science. Okay, so actually he named these functions a little bit in different form, and we will speak about it, but generally we can say that he defined main functions of management: planning, organizing, motivating, and controlling. And speaking a little bit forward, your next task related with your fairy tales character will be connected with managerial functions. Actually, to understand why Henri Fayol decided to think about managerial activities, the basis of this, how to say, the main force to think about his enterprise was the situation that he was a manager. And if compare him with, for example, Taylor or Gilbreth, they began their career as laborers. And Henri Fayol was rather rich person, and he never worked as a subordinate. He worked as a manager, so he tried to increase efficiency, first of all, his own activity and his own enterprise, and then he prepared, he published his paper, and it was possible, he showed that it was possible to, and it is possible to use principles of management and functions of management at any company, And we will begin with principles of management. Principles of management, okay. What is the main difference between principles of management and functions of management? Functions of management are some key activities. So, for example, planning. I'm creating a strategy as I am a manager, so I'm using this function of management. And principles is like rules, is like okay, if functions is what to do, then principles will be how to do, how to create, for example, a strategy of a company, what ideas must be taken into account. So and generally he began with principles of management, and then at the basis of identifying principles of management, he proposed some managerial functions. And before discussing every principle in details, I'd like to stress that generally it could be all principles, and he proposed 14 principles of management. All these principles could be divided into two groups. The first group, or the first area, is the system, rational system of administrating. It means that what we have to do, how we have to organize managerial activity, and the second is connected with structuring organization, because before Henri Fayol, nobody had thought about how to build an effective organizational structure. Now, even before discussing with me this important topic of management, I think in your mind it is rather obvious that there are some different types of organizational structure, linear structure, okay, maybe matrix structure, and in different situations, a subordinate can have even more than more than one supervisor. And before Henri Fayol, nobody had thought about this. So that's why he was also the first who tried to prepare some rules of structuring of any company, and we will speak about it now when discussing his principles of management. Okay, So the first contribution into the management science, I would say historically the first, because I think the main contribution of Henri Fayol was functions of management, and moreover you will see that not all from these 14 principles can be used now. Some organization, it's not possible to organize some activity without avoiding of several principles by Henri Fayol. You will see it, but it was normal because nowadays the situation is more difficult, more, I would say, more complicated. External environment is much more complicated. That's why we have to use a little bit different rules compared with previous situation. Let's discuss principles of management by Henri Fayol. So I'm reminding you that a principle means how to do, how to manage a company. The first principle of a company, of management, is division of labor or division of work. It means that every position at a company must be specialized position. It means that we have to separate some functions and we have to divide these functions among our subordinates. Actually, you can say that it is not a contribution of Henri Fayol to describe these principles of management, and you are absolutely right if you think it is so. It wasn't him who described these principle of management. I think last year then you had a course macroeconomics, so discussed this principle within works of Adam Smith. But the contribution of Henri Fayol was that he included it into management as a science. So every manager has to use division of work, division of labor. Authority, the second principle of management by Henri Fayol. It means that every manager has the right to issue commands. So it is possible for you to say to your subordinates to do something. Actually, when we speak about organizing function, we will discuss problems with delegating. As for me, I had an experience of working at CEO position, and it was rather difficult to delegate some tasks. Usually I did it in the form of, not on the form of request, but I tried to ask something, maybe in too polite form, but generally you have to understand that any manager has a right to issue some commands. The third principle of Henri Fayol, he stressed that employees must obey managers. So if a manager told to do something, the subordinate must follow this order. Unity of commands. It's not a mistake. I decided to use the same picture when I prepared this presentation for you. Generally, in that times, the main idea was that every worker must have not more than one supervisor. And nowadays, and as you see, here is every like blue marked person has one red supervisor, and every gray marked person has also one blue marked supervisor. But nowadays these principles, I wanted to say, doesn't work anymore, but actually I would say it doesn't work for any situation. In some situation, in some cases, we have to build organizational structure. Okay, not we have to build, but it is possible to build more complicated organizational structures, and in these cases every worker can have 2, 3, or even more supervisors. We will have a lecture regarding organizational structure, and we will speak about it in details. The most, I would say, obvious example is a matrix or project organizational form. For example, we have some projects, and we have general supervisor for all the company, for example, head of the company, and we have supervisors for every project, and subordinates will be related with every with a manager of every project, and with a manager of a company as a general organizational structure. So, but I'd like to stress that it wasn't a mistake, just environment was changed. That's why we have to use a different form of organizational structure. We will discuss it, believe me. Unity of direction. It means that all organizational objectives must be related and interdependent somehow. This means that it shouldn't be like this, that you set two objectives and there is a conflict between these two objectives. No, all objectives must be must support mission of the company, the general purpose of existence of the company. Subordination of individual interests. When speaking about organizing, actually, I think you discussed this problem with Olga Nikolaevna at Management 1 Theory of Organization, that we can name some people as an organization only if they have some common objective, and they are working to attain this common objective together. And it's quite clear to understand that everybody has his or her own objectives. But if they want to attain the organizational objectives, they have to work together somehow. And they have to subordinate the individual interests to the interest of the organization. Remuneration. It's rather difficult word maybe for you, but if speaking with the help of simple word, I decided to use this very word because I used the book by Henri Fayol, but generally if speaking about this situation in simple terms, every worker must be rewarded, must have some salary. So, and Henri Fayol thought that if we pay fair payment to every worker, so they will try to do their best to attain organizational objectives. During the next lecture, we will discuss the situation that in some cases, we have to use not only salary, but we have to use some other rewards. And actually, it was I would say a little gap in ideas of Henri Fayol because he thought that if we pay money to some subordinates, that's all. We don't have to think about any other reward. No, it is wrong, and we have to use not only money rewards, but other types of rewards. We will discuss it a little bit later. But generally, this principle is alive that any labor must be rewarded. Centralization. It means that everything in the organization must be connected somehow. And the way of this connection, we call it as centralization or decentralization. Scalar chain. It means that in any organization, it must be built a pyramid of management. Also, we will discuss this principle of management a little bit, I think, in the second module when speaking about this functional management. But generally, please look at this very picture. In any organization, you can find top management level. And okay, if taking as an example our university, so top management level is our rector, for example. Middle management, it is okay. Let's skip middle management for a moment and speak about lower management. Lower level of management. Lower level of management is people, managers who are connected with non-managerial staff. And if organization is quite big, so we have to use some middle part of middle level of management, and we call it as middle management. Okay, for example, if speaking about our university, we have top management. It is our rector, Professor Soko, and we have a lowest level of management, heads of department. And actually, I even don't know how many departments there are at our university. More than 90. More than 90. I think around 100. And it is quite obvious that it is rather difficult to manage this big number of people. That's why within our university, departments are grouped into institutes or into faculties. And middle management is a dean of the faculty or is a director of the institute. So, but we have to use middle management level only if, in the case if an organization is rather big. If organization is not so big as our university, so you can see situation that there are only two levels of management, top management and lowest management, and in some cases, if the organization is too small, it could be only one level of management. Order. It means that everything must be organized. Because without organizing, it will be chaos in the organization. So everything must be organized somehow. In that times, Fayol, he thought that it was an obligation of a manager to build an order from house. But nowadays, and we will see it at the example of holography, in some cases, people, subordinates, can build this order by themselves. Equity. Everything must be transparent in an organization. Everything must be transparent. I decided to use this picture to show, but generally, and when discussing motivation, we will speak about equity theory. And the main idea of this theory is that all subordinates will compare his or her salary with the salary of a person at the same position. And if it's not the same, the person will begin thinking and act somehow to remove this inequity. And if speaking about this picture, what do you think about this picture? Is everything normal at this very picture? At the right side, okay, of this very picture. What do you think? Okay, everybody thinks that it's normal. Actually, before the idea which will be delivered by me in a moment is not mine generally, but the idea is that they should buy a ticket to watch this game, you know. So there is equity, because if there is not possibility to watch this game, they had to pay money and buy the ticket to watch it. So there is pure equity. Next, stability of personnel. Actually, if we don't care about our staff, it will be rather big rank of labor turnover, employee turnover. Українською мовою це плинність кадрів. And in this case, you as a manager, you will have a problem because you will have to educate, you will have to prepare, you will have to train new subordinates. That's why you have to keep to think about your subordinates. Initiative. Every manager, according to Henri Fayol, must have possibility to act, and even if his or her position is non-managerial position, it must be some mechanisms to be involved into some into decision-making process somehow. And I told you during one of the previous lectures that, for example, if speaking about assembly line of a Toyota company, at every working place there is a red button, and every worker can stop the assembly line if he thinks that something goes wrong. And the last but not least principle of management provided by Henri Fayol is Esprit de Corps. It is there are French words. It means corporative structure, culture, something like that. So we should be as a company. I mean, we should be as a family. And if we are a team, so in this very situation, our subordinates will act in the most efficient way. So we finished these principles of management, and the second contribution of management was made, which was made by Henri Fayol, was defining functions of management. Actually, I'd like not maybe to discuss these functions because you can see that they are a little bit different from the modern view of management. For example, he didn't think about motivating because he thought that, I told you, he thought if we pay money, if we pay salary, it is like a rule that all subordinates uh, will work hard for our company. It's not like this generally, so we have to motivate our workers. So let's think about this like this, that he built a basis for managerial functions. But please remember that main functions of management are mentioned for one's planning, organizing, motivating, and controlling. And as an outcome from today's lecture, from today's school, the main contribution from classical management school. First of all, it was development of the principles of management, like the rules, how we have to manage our company. The second, description of functions of management, what has to be done by a manager. And the third main contribution of management that Henri Fayol and other people from other scientists of this school, they tried to, in contrast to scientific management school, in contrast to the first step of management, he tried to improve efficiency of managerial staff within a company. And a short, I'm switching into another window. I'm switching into another window, just a moment. Just a moment. So your next task, the third one, is to, here it is to explain how your character uses functions of management. And you have to prepare, you have to add 3 screens, at least 3. It will be great if you manage to add 4 slides per one for every function, but 3 is also okay. So you have to describe how your hero uses planning function. Okay. If to take my the project of previous project when within Простоквашино story they tried to find a treasure. So the plan was to do some to organize some activities. Organizational function is that they divided somehow the activities. You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. And controlling function, so they checked the results of the activity. It is rather difficult to find some pieces of motivating, but generally it is possible. We can say that they, as I remember from this movie, from this cartoon, they needed money, so this is the best motivation. They wanted to buy something. And please pay attention that the deadline is 1 week more from the previous one. The deadline is the 16th of March. Okay, so now I am just uh-huh. Now I will stop the record and I will answer to all your questions. Just